Hey, everybody, it's Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue, and I am thrilled to bring you the fourth episode where we're working with Ron Friedman, PhD, taking this is sort of funny, taking the knowledge from his book, Decoding Greatness, to decode greatness when it comes to business development. Now, if you haven't listened to the last couple episodes where Ron just gives some amazing insights on how we can use the principles in decoding greatness to achieve higher results and have fun doing it, go back and listen to the three episodes before this. Really meaty, good stuff. In this episode, we talk, and I ask Ron about what can we do to hack our own habits to stay on top of always progressing, always getting better at business development in a way that's fun. And he brought some things to bear in this episode that I didn't expect, and frankly, were better than I thought they could be. I just love that when these amazing thinkers are on the show and take things in a different direction than I would have thought. Even when I read the whole book and loved it and took tons of notes. So I'm excited about this. Going to ask Ron about how we can hack our own habits in just a second. But know that if you want our best thinking on how you can take your business development game to the next level, how you can decode greatness and make it your own, just head over to growbigplaybook.com, sign up there. You get an instant download on the 8 big beliefs you need to have in your head to be successful when it comes to business development. And then you'll be signed up to get weekly, small, short little newsletters that I write myself, spend a couple hours every week trying to get down to like 700 words or less, something you can read in 3 or 4 minutes to give you an insight that week so that you can keep progressing, so that you can decode greatness and become better yourself. So that's over at growbigplaybook.com. You can sign up in like 20 minutes and you are absolutely going to love that content. I put so much effort into try to make it great for you. So with that said, here's Ron Friedman, PhD, on how we can decode greatness, hack our own habits to be successful. Hey everybody, it's Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue. I'm just having a ball talking with Ron Friedman, PhD. He's the author of Decoding Greatness, a book that I absolutely loved. And we've had 3 episodes previous to this one. So if you're dropping in on this one, be thinking, listen, keep watching, but be thinking about going back and picking up those 3 prior because they're really chock full of practical tips to take your business development game to the next level. In this episode, Ron, one last question for our series of interviews where it's me and you before I decode your greatness in the next episode. And my question is, how can our audience hack their own habits to be more successful even when they're really busy?
I'm going to give you my favorite life-changing habit. And this is something that I've implemented in my life. It has literally changed my life in a variety of ways. I'm going to enumerate them in a moment. But the habit has to do with the way in which we aim to improve our skills. And when most of us think about what's the best way to improve my skills, we think about practice. And that practice is defined by practice in the present. And that's a very narrow definition. And what I mean by practice in the present is, if I want to get better at business development, I'll have another business development call. And hopefully I'll learn something that'll improve me on the next one. But that definition of practice is actually quite narrow. And if you look at those who are at the top of their field, particularly in the area of sports, their definition of practice is far broader. It includes the past, the present, and the future. And it's the practicing in the past, which in the research is referred to as reflective practice, that I want to focus on exclusively right now. And what it means in sports is basically looking at the game tape and looking to see what it is that you can learn from your performance that can help you improve in the future. And invariably, there are things that you notice by watching the film that you don't notice in person, in part because of the angle. Right? So in many cases, it's aerial footage, and you're able to see how you're performing relative to the other players on the field. That gives you a different perspective and can help you improve. Obviously, we do not have game film on our performance unless we're athletes. And so the question is, where do you get a game film that you can review? And the answer has to do with keeping a journal, but not just any journal, a 5-year journal. And I don't know, Mo, if you've ever done this. Have you used a 5-year journal?
Well, I haven't used a 5-year journal, but I'm a massive fan of Day One, which is an app, and I have a weekly, quarterly, and annual process where I decode what I did and then
Uh-huh.
focus on the next. So maybe that's going down the line of thinking you're
It
thinking,
might
but you
be. It
keep
might
going.
be.
Yeah.
depending on how you use it. So the 5-year journal is available on Amazon, anywhere you want to go. Any bookstore will have this. And how it works is it gives you a few lines to write what you achieved today. And the focus can be on what you did in your personal life, could be on what you did in work, could be on how you improved a particular skill or how you applied a particular skill. And then you write what you did in that present day, and then you do that for every day. And then a year later, a magical thing happens, which is that you get to write what you did that day. But if you look up a little bit, you'll see what you did on that day, the previous year. And by reviewing our past performance, not just reviewing what we wrote that day, which is how journaling is typically thought of, but looking back to what we did a year ago, there are so many insights that you get from that. And what I love about the 5-year journal is that it automates this process of reflective practice. So some of the things that you might learn are how much you've achieved in the last year, what you're working on last year. Maybe you didn't achieve anything. That's insightful too, because it means you got to try something differently. But one of the things that I think is really so impressive to me about the experience of using the 5-year journal is not only does it improve your memory because you're constantly going back a year or 2 years once you get 2 years down the road and you're being reminded of things that you've done or lessons that you've learned, but it also helps you recognize how often our fears or the fire drills that we go through are overblown in the moment. And that builds confidence the next time you face challenges. And so for all of those reasons, the memory, the lessons that you draw, the confidence that you gain, the 5-year journal is a remarkably effective tool. And we have research out of Harvard that shows if at the end of the day, all you do is spend a few minutes writing down, what did I learn today? Your performance will improve by up to 25% on the following try. So that's impactful. And so if we do this, we automate this every night, put 2 minutes towards writing what we did that day, and then review what we did that day last year and the year before, you are going to improve in whatever it is that you do. And that's called reflective practice. And it's one of the principles I talk about in Decoding Greatness.
Man, I love it. So that is more of a past focus. When you think about past, present, future, that's more of a past focus. Or it has a present element, I guess, because you're talking about your achievements that day. So that feels like Dr. Amabile's research and progress principle. So there's some benefits there, but you also pull the past in. So I know we don't have a lot of time for this episode, but if you have to think about a nugget or an insight or something that you would say fits in the future bucket, what would you give our audience?
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk through it. So practicing in the future is exemplified in imagery. So what athletes often do is they will picture themselves, their performance in advance. And it's called imagery and not visualization because it involves all of the senses. And there's research that the benefits of imagery extend to all kinds of professions way outside the field of athletics. Musicians who visualize learning a piece learn that piece quicker through imagery. Surgeons who visualize the surgery make fewer mistakes and experience less anxiety. Speakers who know they're going to be giving a speech and use imagery to picture themselves on stage and executing the speech, they look less nervous and they're more persuasive in their talks. And part of the reason why this works, and this is the thing that I love about this isn't about visualizing success. In fact, best use of imagery is to occasionally visualize yourself stumbling and then quickly recovering because it teaches you that whatever comes up, you can get better. The reason it works as effectively as it does is because when you visualize, you front load decisions. In other words, if I'm about to give a speech and I visualize it, I can picture myself going up to the podium, looking for the clicker, putting down my water bottle, the heat of the lamps, how I might react when someone's not smiling, or if they are smiling, or if they're laughing, or if there's a distraction that happens. Front loading those decisions makes me able to just get up on stage and execute instead of having to handle these things as they happen. Another example I give in Decoding Greatness is if you have to write a paper tomorrow, if you have to write a memo or a brief, whatever the case is, a proposal, if you front load some of those decisions, like knowing that you're going to need to access a particular proposal that you've written in the past, maybe you're going to need to bring in a book with you, maybe your office is going to be noisy. Knowing how you're going to navigate those decisions allows you to get in there first thing in the morning and just plow ahead, whereas your colleague who didn't visualize and who didn't use imagery and didn't front load their decisions, they're stuck until like 10 o'clock in the morning before they can get started. And it's just because you took a few minutes to think ahead and use some of this practicing in the future.
Yeah, I love this idea. It calls to mind a couple things, simple and more complex examples. Simple is my friend Sean Blanc has a method where every day before he shuts down his computer, he writes down what he's going to focus on tomorrow in the morning. Brilliant, right? Really simple little thing. You can do it in a minute, but boy, it just preloads those decisions, like you're saying. A more complex version is we have a technique or a methodology called dynamic meeting prep where we prepare for meetings. And the whole point of it, Ron, I want to get your quick feedback on this, and we'll close out this episode. But the whole point of it is to get high-end professionals out of the idea of rehearsing by rehearsing their PowerPoint slides, which
Mhm.
is what 90% of people do. I will say this, and then I will say this, and I will say that, like it's some kind of keynote speech and not an interaction. But great meetings have interaction. So what dynamic meeting prep walks people through is, what's the goal? How are you going to frame the meeting? What are you going to do if you get half the time, if you get double the time? What kind of questions are going to ask? What questions might they ask you? It's a whole bunch of other things, but it's thinking through the scenarios that might happen over the course of a meeting. We're going to establish what our goal is. We're trying to go from here to there in general, but how we get there might be different. And we're going to practice with imagery, thinking about how we might interact with the client to make it really interactive, really enjoyable, and have it be a win for all, as opposed to, I will say these things in this order in this really rigid way. So give me your just quick thoughts on how imagery might apply to those things.
Oh, I love that. And because you're building anticipation, right? So the worst thing in the world is a situation happens and you've got no frame of reference of how to respond. And it's not like, I mean, you'll figure it out because of all of the experience you had, but that is a lot of wasted energy. Whereas if you can write down all of the potential things that could go wrong and how you might handle it, not only will you have quicker solutions, but your confidence is going to be through the roof because you're going to be prepared to do whatever it is that needs to be done. And that enables you to be more present. And the more present you are, the more likely you are to connect with your prospect and build true, deep relationships.
Perfect, perfect ending to just a great interview series, Ron. Folks, I can't say this enough. If you just happen to drop in on this episode, be sure to go back and watch or listen to the three that are before it. The one after this, I'm going to decode Ron's greatness using the book and really distill everything we talked about on the three big things from the entire set of episodes that you need to be thinking about to take your business development game to the next level. So, Ron, folks are going to want more of you. They're going to want to engage. Where should they go?
RonFriedmanPhD.com is my website. It's where you can keep up with my latest research, my latest articles. And if you are interested in learning more about decoding greatness, check out decodinggreatnessbook.com, which is the website I've set up where you get a free course if you pre-order the book. You can, of course, find it in all the bookstores. Thank you, Mo. I've enjoyed it.
Ron, it's been a blast. Thanks a ton. I thought this was going to be great. After I read Decoding Greatness, it's been even better than I thought. The live version of what's in your big brain, Ron. It's been it's been
You're very kind.
fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.